Welcome to The Hidden Load for the educators and leaders in medicine who hold everyone up. We will tackle the hard topics and help you conquer your chaos and get to calm, all by starting to acknowledge and remove that hidden load. This podcast is a space for us to name the things that are common but not normal. Each week, we'll look at the invisible weight you're carrying and explore practical coaching-based tools to help you find more calm, better boundaries, and a sense of purpose that doesn't require you to run on empty. I'm so glad that you've carved time out for yourself today. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back to The Hidden Load. I am so glad that you are here. I am Dr. Santina, or Tina Wheat. I am a family physician, an educator, and a career and life coach. And today, I want to talk about something that I see constantly in medical education and physician leadership. But this something is something that we almost never name directly. We often talk about the leaders who are toxic. We often talk about those who are the empty suit leaders, the ones who are never there. But we don't talk about you. We are talking about the hidden load of trying to be the good leader. Now, I am not talking about the person who is absent or the person who is indifferent. I am talking about the leader who absolutely cares deeply, the one who shows up every day, the one who wants to do right by their learners, by their patients, by their colleagues, and by the system, even when the system makes that feel nearly impossible. Now, if you are the person who is constantly trying to be fair, the one who is always available, the one who feels that it is their job to protect their team from all of the nonsense that is coming from above, if you are the leader who is trying to hold both high standards and deep compassion at the same time, then this episode is for you. Because the hidden load of being the good leader, well, it is incredibly heavy. And the problem is that most people who are carrying this hidden load are doing so in complete silence. They're carrying this load in silence because they think that the weight is just part of the job description. And if I'm honest, that is something that I believed for a long time. But today, I am here to tell you that it is not part of the job description. Now, when I use the term the good leader, I 100% do not mean someone who is perfect or a leader who has it all figured out. Because truly, who does? I mean the leader who acts as the buffer. In medicine, the good leader is the one who softens the rough edges of the system for everyone else. It might be that a new clunky institutional demand is coming down from the hospital board, such as a new process for scheduling or a new requirement for documentation that you don't understand, or new trainings that you have to do. Or it might be a new demand that's coming down from the ACGME that is greatly going to impact the way that you are caring for patients or educating your learners. When these things happen, the good leader doesn't just pass it on. They take the time to translate it. Not only that, they massage the language so that it hopefully hurts less. They notice when a resident is not doing well or a faculty member is about to snap, and they take the time to try to intervene well before that crisis hits. The good leader absorbs their frustration upward from their team so that it doesn't spill back downward. Think about that for a second. To be this kind of leader, there are so many expectations. You usually have to be clinically excellent, This is so no one questions your authority or understanding of the clinical environment. They have to be emotionally attuned so that you can sense the room around you and understand what is going on with everyone. And then you also have to be deeply responsible. So responsible that you never can let a ball drop. And because of those three things, it feels like an impossible job and you are likely exhausted. Now, I find this to be especially true in medical education. As a program leader or a faculty member, you are told that you have to meet every accreditation requirement. You have to support every struggling learner. You have to address absolutely every professionalism hiccup and protect patient safety. And oh, by the way, do all of that while maintaining a high morale. And the hidden rule of all of this, well, you are supposed to do all of that, to make all of that work without ever letting anyone else see the cost. You are supposed to be a swan, calm on the surface, yet paddling like crazy underneath. But eventually, for everyone, this leads to the legs getting tired. Now, here is the part that we don't talk about often enough: emotional labor. Good leaders in medicine, they carry a volume of emotional labor that was never, ever named in our contracts. It was never trained for in medical school or in residency, and it 100% is not protected by our schedules. You aren't just making logistical decisions about call schedules or curriculum or clinic workflows. You are also holding. You are holding the learner's anxiety about their futures. You are holding the faculty's frustration with the EHR or their own imposter phenomenon. You are holding the systemic inadequacy of a healthcare system that asks for more than 100% on barely a 60% budget. With all of that, you have become the buffer. And the problem with being a buffer is that over time, buffering, well, it becomes overfunctioning. And overfunctioning isn't great. When you're overfunctioning, you start fixing things before people even ask. You maybe anticipate reactions before they happen. You might even soften your feedback because you don't want to add yet one more thing to their plate. You carry the concerns home so that your team can focus just on learning. But you can only do that for so long. And here is the trauma-informed piece of this. This isn't happening because you have poor boundaries. It's happening because your nervous system has learned that safety equals stabilization. Many of us in medicine, especially many women in medicine, have been rewarded very early in our lives for being the helpful ones. We've also been rewarded for being the competent ones. And we've been rewarded for being the calm in the storm. Because we were rewarded for these things, we have learned that if we are self-sacrificing, then we are respected. And we worry that if we're not self-sacrificing, then we won't be respected. So your identity as a good leader has quietly fused with a very dangerous thought. And that thought is, if I don't hold this together, then everything falls apart. And this thought, well, it's certainly not leadership strategy. This thought is like a hostage situation where you are both the guard and also the prisoner. And that is definitely not sustainable. In fact, this load, it's sustainable maybe for a month, maybe a year, maybe it held you through a pandemic, but eventually the bill comes due. It doesn't usually look like a dramatic "I quit" moment, though it might, but more often it shows up in micro costs. These micro costs might look like being fine at work, but then being snappy or totally silent at home. It might start looking like dreading your inbox more than a complex patient case. It might look like feeling a strange sense of guilt or responsibility for problems that weren't even yours, ones that you didn't create. It's moments when you realize that you are on all of the time, even when technically you are supposed to be off. And yet, when I talk to leaders about stepping back, they hesitate. Why is that? Well, because being the good leader is how they measure their worth. If they aren't the one who is holding everything, well, then who are they? Now, this is not a personal flaw, and I want to be really clear about that. But this is what happens when leadership roles are just layered and layered and layered on top of a full clinical load. It's what happens when the emotional labor is invisible. Our systems actually rely on your individual goodwill in order to compensate for their structural gaps. They need you to overfunction so that they don't have to fix the system. And when you constantly overfunction, eventually you become depleted. You aren't depleted because you care too much. And I hate that phrase. You become depleted because your caring has become unconstrained. Now, let's pause and let's take a look at this through a trauma-informed lens. In trauma-informed care, we don't ask our patients, "What's wrong with you?" Instead, we ask, "What happened to you?" So do the same for yourself. Instead of asking yourself, "Why can't I just handle this like everyone else?" I want you to instead ask, "What conditions trained me to believe that I had to carry this load all alone?" Now, most of us were trained in an environment where being steady meant you were suppressing your own needs. Being competent meant that you were never asking for help. And being respected meant that you were absorbing everyone else's discomfort. Your nervous system adapted beautifully to survive medical school and residency. It learned to shut down your own signals so that you could perform. But survival strategies are completely different than sustainability strategies. Here is the key shift. You can be a good leader without being the container for everything. Leadership is not synonymous with emotional self-sacrifice. In fact, if you are the container for all of the system's problems, well, you are actually preventing the system from seeing its own flaws. You are hiding the mess. And when you hide the mess, well, it never gets cleaned up. So if you're an educator, a program director, a clerkship director, this matters more than just your burnout. It matters because of the hidden curriculum. Your learners are watching you. They aren't just learning how to treat hypertension from you. They are learning how to be a doctor. When you overextend without naming it, when you apologize for having a doctor's appointment or a limit, when you normalize being chronically depleted, your learners internalize that. They think, okay, to be as good as Dr. Wheat, I have to be exhausted as Dr. Wheat. But when you flip the script and you say, this is a systemic issue and I'm working on a structural fix rather than just working harder, or I'm noticing I'm carrying a lot of the team's anxiety today and I need to take 10 minutes to recalibrate. Or setting boundaries is actually a core part of being a professional. Then you aren't showing weakness. Instead, you are modeling sustainability. You are giving them permission to have a different future. That is one of the most powerful educational interventions that you can ever offer. And it's not just for educators. It's the same for leading your team. When you are leading your team and they see you trying to make those fixes, trying to have boundaries, trying to find different ways to be sustainable, your team members have permission to do the same. Now, I want to leave you with a reflection that I use with my coaching clients. The next time something feels heavy, the next time you have that feeling in your chest, when you look at the schedule or a struggling learner file, ask yourself 3 questions. Is this mine to hold or mine to name? Because sometimes we hold the problem in secret when we should be naming it to our leadership or our team. The second question is, am I buffering something that actually needs to be seen? If you keep fixing the leak, the hospital will never replace the pipe. And then finally, what would it look like to share this load appropriately? Sharing the load isn't dumping it. It isn't abandoning your responsibility. Instead, it is redistributing it so that the team can actually function as a team. Good leadership isn't about being the superhero. It is about building structures that don't require heroics. Now, if you have been the good leader for a long time, you might not even realize how much you are holding until you try to put it down. This episode isn't a call to care less. It is a call to care in a way that doesn't cost you your nervous system, your relationships, or your joy. I want you to know that you are allowed to be a leader and a human at the same time. You are allowed to have limits. In fact, your limits are what make you a safe leader. Now, if this resonated with you, I want you to know that you are certainly not alone. This is the quiet work we are doing together, redefining what it means to lead and educate in medicine. And if you are interested in support in this area, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. Thanks for being here today. Take care of yourself today. You deserve to be held up too. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for listening to The Hidden Load. If today's conversation spoke to you, I would love for you to share it with a colleague who might need to hear it too. It's one of the simplest ways we can start shifting the culture of medicine together. And remember, your time spent reflecting here matters. You can earn free CME or CE credits for listening to today's episode through the Pinnacle app. You'll find that link in the show notes. If you are looking for one-on-one coaching support or want to dive deeper into the resources we discussed today, let's connect. You can find information on how to reach me in the show notes. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And leave me a rating so that others can find me too. And take care of yourself because you deserve to be held up too. And I'll see you next time.